Welcome to Movies Are Life. I'm your host, Nathan Chandler, and I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes. Christmas is all around me, and so the feeling grows. That's right, we are talking about the Christmas romantic comedy classic, Love Actually, that is number 24 on the 50 Best Rom-Coms list. Here in a bit, returning guest and lover of all things British, Todd Ferguson will join me as we break down this film. Not only are we going to break it down, we attempt to rank all the storylines in Love Actually from worst to best. Whitney is here in the studio with me. How are you, Whitney?
I'm doing great.
Doing great. So, off the top of your head, I've given you no warning to this. What is your favorite storyline from Love Actually?
Oh, my favorite? I went to my worst first.
What's your worst then?
My worst is I don't see any need for the porn one.
Yeah.
Because it keeps me from being able to show it. Like when we watched it growing up, I couldn't have my niece and nephew in there. And I guess I like that it just takes the sex out of it and you just don't care, but it's just weird. I don't like it.
Yeah. Todd said pretty much almost the same thing.
Todd and I are cut from the same cloth.
Yes,
we're both prude, I guess. That one. And then 4 is I do not care about the relationship with the cute guy and his maid.
Oh, you
lady.
don't like that with Colin Firth?
Yeah.
Oh,
I really like Colin Firth, but I've never, I think you can't be in love with somebody that you can't speak to.
Okay.
Because for me, it's all about having intellectual conversations, and so obviously they just both think each other are cute. Yeah. And she does stuff for him. Yeah. I don't like it.
So you don't believe in love at first sight?
No.
Hot take.
Hot take. Those are my worst. My favorite, I think, is I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of the stories. The one I always feel for is the lady in the office. But I think it's because when the movie came out, I was single like that lady in the office and had crushes like that. Yeah. And so I just felt for her. I think it was about the timing of when I first saw it for me.
Yeah. You had to take care of your brother.
And then now going back, had to take care of my brother. And now going back to watch it, the lady, the mom that's doing all the things and her husband, that story just guts me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, it's officially awards season, and there have already been some critics associations have handed out trophies to the best movies of the year. But this past Monday, the Golden Globes just released their nomination, and there's a lot of great podcasts that really break down the awards race. And so, I'm not trying to do that, but the Golden Globes, when they come out, and even though the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has had their fair share of controversy, and regardless of what you think about them, their lists are usually kind of an idea of what's out there and what people are buzzing and talking about and what the Academy will recognize come Oscar season. So I'm pretty sure you haven't seen the nomination list, correct?
No, I haven't at all. I'm worried you're going to make me name them, and I never know names.
No, I'm going to name them really fast and just anything that just kind of lights you up here. So remember, the Golden Globes has 2 categories. They have drama, and then the other category is musical or comedy. So the best motion picture nominees for drama are Anatomy of a Fall.
Didn't see it.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Saw it.
Maestro. Have you heard about that one?
No.
It's coming out on Netflix soon. It's Bradley Cooper.
Hadn't even come out yet.
Hasn't even come out yet.
That's dumb.
Yep. Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Past Lives.
I didn't see it.
And The Zone of Interest.
Oh. Those are definitely dramas.
Yeah.
Guess I'm going for the one I saw, which is Killers of the Flower Moon coming at you from Oklahoma.
Yep. So best motion picture, musical or comedy. First one, Air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a comedy?
It had comedic elements to it.
Okay.
Remember when Matt Damon's talking to the agent and they have that whole back and forth?
I mean, I was rolling.
I did
like that movie.
American Fiction.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it hasn't
come out yet
wide
either.
yet. Yeah,
that's dumb.
I know, it's always unfair. I would love to see all these movies beforehand. Barbie.
Okay.
Hopefully. The Holdovers, which we want to see. With Paul Giamatti. Mm-hmm. Yep. May, December.
Oh, watching it.
Yeah, we started it.
It's a B-rated movie. I mean, it's interesting,
we haven't finished it yet.
No, but they're filming it to look like a B-rated movie. I don't get it.
Yeah. And then the last one is Poor Things. That's a new one with Emma Stone.
They're all, nobody's seen them.
I know.
That's stupid.
Okay.
But I like those movies.
Yeah.
Apparently I only like comedy.
You might have a more of opinion on these. So best television series drama. Okay. 1923.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
It's like a Yellowstone spinoff.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Crown.
Okay.
Okay. The Diplomat, which we started, but we haven't
Yeah.
finished yet with Carrie Russell.
Yeah.
The Last of Us, which is the zombie one. You didn't watch that with us. The Morning Show.
Oh, that made it on the list?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. They don't watch TV. They just get nominations. This thing's stupid. It's rigged.
And the last one is Succession.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then for a comedy, musical or comedy, first one's Abbott Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Hallie would be a fan of that one. Barry.
Okay.
Okay. The Bear.
Ugh. The Bear just is a whole bunch of yelling all the time, yelling.
Yeah.
That should be a drama.
Yeah. Wait for this one. Jury Duty.
Oh my gosh! It has got to win.
I don't know if Hallie got picked up on the mic
screaming
there.
from the other room. She loves jury duty.
I love jury duty.
Only Murderers in the Building, which we never started
boring.
the last season.
They're just funny people. I like them together.
And it has Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep in this
I love
season.
them in it.
Yeah.
But it's literally like a bunch of famous people said, "Let's get held up in an apartment together and just talk."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like them, but what they're talking about is just blah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one is Ted Lasso.
Oh, is that still this year? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, jury duty! Come on, jury duty!
That-
Go with the wild card.
I would say that would be a pretty dark horse if that one won.
Well, good.
Well, let's dive into the heartwarming world of Love Actually, the ultimate holiday classic that has been warming hearts and sparking debate since its release. Is Love Actually the ultimate romantic comedy or just a festive guilty pleasure?
Both.
Universal Pictures invites you
What's the best sex you've ever had?
Britney Spears. No, I ain't kidding. She was rubbish.
to take everything you know about love
You have this kind of problem? Yeah, of course you did, you saucy minx.
and multiply it by 8. All you need
Hello?
is Love Actually.
All right, I am so excited to bring in one of my best friends, Todd Ferguson. How are you doing, Todd?
Hey, Nathan. I am great. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah, it was to no surprise for me that you quickly signed up for this movie because ever since I've known you, you have just enjoyed British culture as a whole.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I have been an Anglophile since watching British sitcoms on PBS at my grandmother's house when I was 8, 9 years old.
Yeah. So, did you like the Faulty Towers, like that sitcom, or?
I missed that when I was little, but
Okay.
Keeping Up Appearances,
Okay.
absolutely. We would watch that with Hyacinth Bouquet.
Okay.
And then, of course, when we were in middle school, high school, all of Monty Python.
Yeah.
Yes, British humor. It's one of my favorite styles of humor.
Yeah.
I love it.
I showed the girls Monty Python in the Holy Grail not too long ago. And so I can't say that they were like intrigued. You know, I kind of even in the moment of watching it realized like just how different. I mean, it definitely was different for its time, but how that is just so not the style now. And so,
Right.
and Hallie would not laugh at all the things, but she would laugh, you know, occasionally. But I mean, she kind of kept looking at me like, what in the world is this?
Well, even this morning, my 3-year-old son, Henry, came in, like he woke up, he found a broom immediately. When he woke up, he found a broom, started writing on it, and he said, I'm a witch. I'm a witch. And so I just naturally said in the Monty Python accent, which I'm horrible at, but you know, she's a witch. She's a witch. And he's like, what? And I was like, hold on. So I pulled it up on YouTube and I'm showing him she's a witch scene, and he's like, I mean, he's 3.5, you know.
Yeah.
He's not getting it, but I'm like in the kitchen cracking up because they're brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And Allie, they haven't got into the whole King Arthur thing yet in school yet, you know, and that sort of thing.
Right.
So a lot of that stuff, a lot of that history they haven't learned about. But well, I do have to say, part of knowing this about you, and then just as we were going through college and all these things, and if it's okay to mention a little bit, when you met Emma and you told us about Emma's family history, we were just like, I mean, even I don't know when you told us exactly, but it was almost like, well, they're gonna get married.
I know the fact that I married a British American and I have British in-laws. It's funny, and I know this is a podcast; people can't see me, but behind me is a mug rack for our British tea mugs because my wife drinks British tea every morning, and so that's what my background is. All my British tea mugs.
Seems like a much better habit than my Diet Coke that I have in the morning.
Tomato.
Yeah. Well, so all that said, do you even remember when you first saw this film?
I was trying to think about that. I don't remember, but I mean, we were seniors in college when it came out, sort of the Christmas.
Yeah, it came out in
senior in college.
Yeah, you're right. Christmas of 2003.
And I must have seen it in the theaters. You know, I loved Notting Hill. I loved Mr. Bean. You know, I didn't know that guy was the director. I only found that out looking it up in preparation for this podcast. But I just remember seeing the previews and going, of course I'm going to watch that. Like, it's a British, and yeah, it's a British show, a movie, of course. So I must have seen it in the theaters. So maybe during Christmas break of my senior year. I don't know. I mean, did we go see it together? I don't remember this.
Okay, so I guess I was kind of setting you up a little bit because I have a story for this, but I don't know if you were part of this experience. So,
got it.
Being part of the communications department, I don't know how this came about, but basically they were seeking out college students to basically be the representative of a screening of this movie before it came out. And so I volunteered for it. I didn't really know what it meant at the time. I completely know now. But basically, and you'll see them from time to time, especially in big cities, but they basically, hey, come see our movie. And they try to get as many people there as you can, but they only accept, it's like a first come, first serve type of basis type of thing. And so I remember passing it out to a lot of my friends. And anyway, but basically, how old were we around then? I guess like 21,
22. Yeah.
22. And so I get there and I am like the person that is basically letting people in and having to tell people, okay, we're full, go away. And it was like, I'm a little bit better at that stuff now, but you could ask Whitney or a lot of people that know that's just not like my forte. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it was just like, I just did not know or expect as many people as there was. And the movie theater in Waco, Texas was actually a really popular theater, a lot of people and that sort of thing. And so anyway, so I don't know if you saw it then, but my other story with that was that I was also, because it's fair to say I was a lot more prude back then, but I didn't quite know about the content in the movie. And definitely the couple of John and Judy, who are the stand-ins, the nude stand-ins for this movie. Like I was terrified that I was just like, I had invited all these friends and basically I didn't have a seat myself, but I would come in occasionally to pop in and I saw that on screen and I was like, oh my gosh, it was just like, it was like my worst nightmare completely. So yeah, that was my experience.
I know. Yeah. That whole storyline changes. I mean, it changes the rating of the movie, you know, but it absolutely changes it from like, I can put this on when the kids are on, you know, I can't do that with this movie because of that scene with Martin Freeman. So,
yeah. And so anyway, for a long time I had, I did get a lot of because I was quote unquote controlling the situation, I didn't really get to see the movie at the time, but I got a lot of free swag. So for the longest time, I had a long sleeve. It was like a beige long sleeve cotton shirt, and it just said "Love Actually" on the front. That was it. So I had that for a really long time. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't think I was a part of that because I don't remember you telling me I couldn't go into a movie theater.
I probably, yeah, probably so.
Yeah,
Well,
but it definitely was a movie that I watched in the theaters, but then I bought after. Like I definitely owned the DVD of it,
mhm.
and then we own digitally now. Like it's just one of those movies that we absolutely own digitally.
Yeah, yeah, and I will say that this is a film that I have seen many times. And before we like completely kind of break it down, I will say that it's kind of a movie. I think it has high highs and kind of some low lows, but I think over time, its success has made it very easy for it to be criticized. Like it's kind of hard. There's been so many cynical takes on some of the scenes in it, and so many things that have been parodied and stuff like that. That like I had to kind of almost keep in mind, like putting that on the back shelf and trying to take it more of an approach of like kind of seeing it for the first time. So,
Right.
and there were thinking back, this movie is actually, I think, really revolutionary for the genre. Because now certainly there's been movies before that have these multiple storylines and how these characters intersect, but I don't think a rom-com that had ever really done it before. And so I think it's very innovative in that. But there were so many poor spin-offs from this. I think that's kind of what's hurt it. Like I know there's been a lot more than this, but Valentine's Day came to mind and New Year's Eve. I believe I've seen both of those movies, and I can also tell you nothing about those movies at all. Like just
even 30 Rock did a spoof on the show of all of these movies based off of Love Actually, but Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, and then they did a spoof on MLK Day. That was their holiday that they all intertwined in to have these sappy love stories for MLK.
Yeah, it definitely became a thing. And actually, I almost wish I hadn't like listened to this first before watching this movie, but it got passed along to me an audiobook, and the author is Lindy West, and she's a very popular just columnist. And this book is so the title of the book is Shit Actually, the definitive 100% objective guide to modern cinema. And I mean, the book is completely like full of cynicism, but she takes movies like Forrest Gump and Speed 2, and anyway, really, really funny. But I mean, completely breaks down like if you have any kind of attachment to any of the movies she covers, your feelings will get hurt very, very quickly. but it's actually like so. But this original, I don't know if it was a blog post originally or whatever, but it's like it became like a viral thing that like people actually read every Christmas, almost like like the Christmas Story and stuff like that. So it's really funny. But I need to send it to you. I think you would appreciate it. So it's one of those like if you almost like if you love something so much, you can see the humor in what she's finding in these situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if anybody hasn't seen this movie before, Love Actually, it was released in 2003, and it's a Christmas romantic comedy film written and directed by Richard Curtis, who, by the way, Todd, has his fingerprints all over this 50 best rom-coms list I'm coming to find. He wrote it and directed Notting Hill. We haven't covered Bridget Jones' Diary yet, but he's written that. And then, and of course, like Hugh Grant keeps popping up in these movies as well. But basically, Love Actually is a heartwarming tale of improbable romantic entanglements where everyone conveniently finds love in the most absurd, interconnected ways possible. It's a festive journey through the tangled web of relationships, featuring a stellar cast of characters who miraculously manage to solve all their love problems in the span of a few holiday weeks. Love Actually is a guilty pleasure that you indulge in once a year, knowing it's a bit over the top. So would you agree with that last sentiment?
That is a perfect description of like, this is on our rotation for holiday Christmas movies. We throw it on, we watch it while we're either wrapping presents or doing something. My wife loves this movie, but we also don't have to pay close attention to it because we've seen it every year,
Yeah.
But as long as the music's playing from the soundtrack, like, it makes us happy. And it is over the top. It absolutely is over the top.
It
And
is
I
over
think
the
that is okay during Christmas.
Yeah, and obviously now there's like tons of Christmas movies, especially I would say even more so with the streaming services now. Everybody's trying to create like their own spin on the holidays. So it's probably not totally, especially the Hallmark Channel. I'm sure there's plenty of romantic plus slash Christmas movies or whatever, but I really think this was I'm sure I'm wrong, but this was really one that was like full on rom-com, but also full on like Christmas feeling as well,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And I think one thing I will say and I almost kind of knew this in the back of my head, also a very long movie for a romantic comedy.
There are a lot of storylines that they have to wrap up in time for Christmas.
Yes. The original movie actually had 14 stories originally planned. 2 of them were later cut before the filming, and the other 2 ended up on the cutting room floor. And one of the storylines was actually between a lesbian couple. But yeah, so they're on the deleted scenes of that DVD you owned. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even have a DVD player anymore, so
yeah,
I have to figure out how to watch them.
yeah. So so there was definitely a lot more. And from what I read, Richard Curtis actually originally started. He had the 2 stories he had in mind as being basically the only stories was between David and Natalie, Hugh Grant as the prime minister, and then the one with there's so many names in here, Jamie and Aurelia, Colin Firth's character. So those were kind of the ones he had, and then I think he realized like both of them weren't like strong enough to carry like a full movie, and so the other ones kind of came in, and you can kind of feel that watching this movie.
Absolutely. I mean, there's only so much you can do with like struggling in English and Portuguese. I think they fleshed that out as much as they could.
yeah. And you can tell their scenes too. And we're going to hit all the little storylines pretty quickly, but you can see that too. And the prime minister's story also, I think that you could tell, especially with as the American president visit played by Billy Bob Thornton, you could tell that was almost probably something they would have wanted to flesh out a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I had always remembered that scene, and then watching it this time, I realized like kind of like how fast it is. It was like, wow, that all really occurred in a really short time frame.
Yeah.
I do think, to me, I think the appeal is definitely the comedic parts, but there are some true, I think, emotional moments as well. Do you think that's something that is drawing you and Emma to this movie?
Absolutely. I think it hits, like your opening description said, there are some high highs and low lows. There are like really touching emotional moments that kind of make you tear up, make you sad. But then there's also like some just funny, goofy things like Colin's journey to America, which are over the top and silly.
Yes, very much. So this is kind of a involved question, I guess, but do you think this movie is a realistic portrayal of love in any way, or is it kind of more just like the fantasy feel good version of the like romantic entanglements?
Yeah, I think what this movie does is it uses the extremes to talk about, and the movie is aptly titled, to talk about how love actually is. You have Laura Linney's character choosing the really difficult, ugly love of, an emotionally handicapped or mentally handicapped brother over her crush,
Yeah.
It's in the extreme, we heard that Nokia ringtone so many times in that movie. So they're using these over the top scenes, they're pushing the boundaries of like what's realistic to
Yeah.
show, I think, the the multifaceted view of love.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't help but think also, I don't know, did Emma watch it with you this time, or did you watch it on your own?
I watched it on my own, but it was playing in the background.
Yeah.
And so she could hear it, and she knows every word for word. So she was following along right with me.
Like a lot of movies, I think, from this time. So this movie is actually celebrating its 20th anniversary. I was kind of reminded more so of like this being kind of a little bit more exploration of different types of loves, like you mentioned with Laura Linney's character, you know, like and we'll talk a little bit about like Billy Mack and in between him and his manager, friendship, you know, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of maybe almost the ultimate appeal, even though people may definitely remember the more romantic, quote unquote, romantic part of these movies. I think what really makes this hold up are those kind of emotional connections. Like Whitney too kind of caught little bits and pieces here and there. She's seen it so many times, but she loves the moment where David, the prime minister, comes to the play and his sister is thrilled that like he's come to like see the children, you know, like those little moments, you know? So, well, okay. So to kind of help us move along, because there's just a lot, you could really unpack from this movie. So I thought it'd be a little fun. Yeah, I thought it'd be a little fun to maybe just quickly hit these different storylines. And so, so I have personally ranked them from worst to best in my eyes. And then Todd's going to kind of throw in maybe like if he thinks I'm wrong, that sort of thing. And I would say there was probably like definitely a middle line. And there's like these storylines are on one side and the other storylines are on the other side. And kind of on both sides, I really struggled to where to put each one. Yeah. So drumroll, please. I think the worst story in here is Colin's journey to America. And when I was telling you that before hitting record on this, you're like, it makes me really laugh.
So, in fact, before I was getting on the computer to record this with you today, my wife said, you know, I was in the bedroom listening to you watching it in the living room, and she said you were belly laughing and at the American scene. And I was like, yes, it's not my favorite storyline. I mean, it's the most over the top. It's the most silly.
Yeah. But
they're just having fun. Like, and I mean, the writers are just having fun.
Well, in particular, taking shots at America, which is totally
absolutely
totally fine.
One of my favorite lines in the whole movie is, and I even repeat it, like I'll say it in everyday life, and he's a Christian. Like when he says praise the Lord, and she's like, and he's a Christian, and I'm just like, yes.
Well,
but I could totally see it being the bottom. I get that. I respect that decision.
Yeah, for me, I don't really think it's that funny. It's almost like too over the top, like for me to even care. So unrealistic. It just bugs me. I don't know why. It just does.
And so, the actresses they chose, I mean, so I guess 3 out of the 4 of them went on to have careers.
Yeah.
I don't know the 4th, but like, you know, January Jones and is it Eliza Cuthbert?
Yeah.
Denise Richards.
Yeah.
And then there's the random, which maybe she had a career. I don't know her.
How dare you talk about I don't know who she is either. Yeah. So number 8 for me, we kind of talked about it a little bit. It's the John and Judy storyline between these two stand-ins, Martin Freeman and Joanna Page. Once again, like to me, it's one of those. I definitely can see what they were going for, you know, but it almost sounds like a joke you talk about like at a party, like nothing to ever fill up like scenes in a movie. And that's just how I feel about it. So I
would agree with that. I would put John and Judy as my bottom because I think actually if they cut it out, the rating goes down to a PG-13. And for me personally, I could like show it to my parents, and
Yeah.
we could watch it as a family. But with that scene or with that line in there, yeah, and I, like you said, I get what they're doing. They're
Right.
trying to show that this innocent relationship blossoms in the midst of the least innocent career.
Yeah.
But if they didn't have that, it wouldn't take away from the movie.
Nope.
I mean, they're not super connected to other characters. They're not brothers or sisters to the other characters, you know? And so I think they should just cut it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in fact, I read that like for TV versions, because this romantic comedy does run over 2 hours, to get it, to make it basically fit in the time slots that TV has, a lot of cuts take these scenes out completely. So
Yeah, and the movie doesn't change. The
No.
movie does not change.
Right. Exactly. So, okay. So number 7 for me was actually, I feel like you might argue a little bit for this one, but it's the Laura Linney storyline between Sarah and Carl and then her brother. And I don't know if you want to respond first, or I can tell you why I have that there.
Go for it. You
Okay.
go for it.
I do like what this story is going for, as far as this, like, the relationship she has with her brother, that kind of avenue that I talked about a little bit, like just kind of a different type of love and commitment, I think the actual storyline of this girl in the office who has a crush with the guy, and that I think is just, even up to 2003, had been played out probably in so many sitcoms before. I just didn't really care much about the relationship between Sarah and Carl.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely on my bottom of the list. It does have a couple, like with Alan Rickman, when she's asking, well, does everyone know? He's like, yes. Does he know? Yes. And then immediately he walks in and she's like, hi, Carl.
Yeah. Yeah, because
other than that,
we've all been in that spot before, right? Like, where you think nobody else knows and everybody totally knows.
Absolutely. But I think you're right. I think there may be other ways to show love that's difficult, or love that chooses, like love that wills itself to choose. But it's one of the lesser engaging stories.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so number 6, I have, this will be, I'm so interested to hear your take on this, but I think it's the relationship between Juliet, Peter, and Juliet,
And
Peter and Mark. So
Yep.
Andrew Lincoln, Keira Knightley, he's a great actor. I always mispronounce his name, but Chiwetel Ejiofor. Yeah. So anyway, I'll let you kind of talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, I would put it at the bottom of the list. For me, I think Colin's Journey to America would be right above it, but this would be the next, because there's a creeper element to it.
Yes.
When he goes to the door.
What are you talking about? The super cut of all the close-ups of her?
Yeah,
you're saying that's creepy?
And she takes it well, but then, and here's what always baffled me: she goes out into the street after he does his big show of
the cards,
love,
yeah,
the cards, the famous card scene, and she kisses him on the lips.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I don't know if that was the right response.
Yeah,
I think maybe British people kiss each other on the cheeks all the time. Like, that's how they do it. They say hello by kissing cheeks. If she had done that, that'd been okay. But she kisses him on the lips, and I'm like, oh, that's even more creepy. So I think, Keira Knightley, gorgeous, amazing to watch, but the storyline's not there.
Yeah,
it's just creepy.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's a story that could play out almost pretty well as its own movie. I think there's, some interesting things you could explore with it, but I think the like supercut is kind of weird, but I think it's definitely one of the most memorable storylines from this movie. One, we talked about the card scene, but also the wedding at the beginning, when he's throws a surprise, choir like
Right.
singing and stuff, which I'm sorry, any good bride would know exactly everybody that's like in that chapel. But
Yes.
yeah, but I thought you appreciate
was this Keira Knightley's big breakthrough movie?
Yeah, it was one of her first ones, so
At least for Americans. I mean, I
yeah.
know she did Pride and Prejudice later, after this, but
Yeah.
for Americans, I feel like this was my first introduction to her.
Yeah, and I thought you appreciate this, but apparently they got the idea for that song being played during the wedding because at Jim Henson's funeral, which you love the Muppets and Jim
Absolutely.
Henson, which Richard Curtis actually attended. All the puppeteers brought their Muppets and sang a song apparently during his funeral, so that's where the idea sprung from.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's something I did not know about Jim Henson.
Wow. Yeah. So now take it with a grain of salt. I got it from the internet. So there you go. So,
the internets are always true.
Yeah. Okay. So for the next one, so this is where I actually probably kind of struggled a little bit with these next rankings. And honestly, like on a good day, somebody could convince me to shift them around or whatever. But the next one I have is actually, even though it plays out a lot in the movie, is David, the Prime Minister, played by Hugh Grant, and Natalie. That's where I put that one. Yeah,
for me, that's my favorite.
Yeah, and I totally can. Hugh Grant, like, I mean, it's especially watching some of the movies that have been on this rom-com list. He's amazing, and it's actually watching these performances. It's pretty amazing to see how he actually does tweaks on different ones, and it's still like Hugh Grant, but it is like different takes or whatever like that.
Right.
But
right.
He's great. I just kind of put it here a little bit for me. I mean, I will say the Natalie stuff just hasn't aged super well as far as like, the thick thighs and those kind of comments. Because I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
anyway. So that's another line that my wife and I will say. Like, we'll go, what do we call her? And whatever the word is, in the movie they say chunky, I think.
Yeah. Chubby or something like that. Yeah.
And she's absolutely not chubby. Like the poor actress was, anyway, she's not chubby. But that's one of the memorable lines that we will always repeat. Like, what do we say? She's or he's, and then we'll say whatever adjective.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like it. And I like the storyline. So like in the cultural context of this movie, 9/11 had happened.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned 9/11 in the opening act with Hugh Grant's voiceover. Yeah. And this movie it has a political statement in it. In the midst of a rom-com, in the midst of a Christmas movie, it is making a political statement that I think the smaller ally in the war on terror, Britain, at least in this fictional world, stood up to America. And I thought that was just an interesting addition to the movie. I think Tony Blair was the prime minister then.
Yeah, he was.
And he and George W. were friends. They were buds, as far as I can tell. I'm not best friends with either of them, but
you weren't out at George's Bush.
I was not at George's ranch.
Totally missed up there. You weren't out at Bush's ranch. Out in Crawford. Mm-hmm. You didn't ever go out there when you guys lived in Waco.
No. But when we were at Baylor, I did see Secret Service working out at the gym.
Yeah, I got to film him once coming in on I'm losing the name of it. Air Force One time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
No.
So for this, I like this. I like I like Natalie's character. I like Hugh Grant's character. I like the idea of the prime minister. So for me, it's like very British, and so
Yes.
I think I was
Yeah.
attracted to that.
Yeah. And I think that's almost kind of why I have it in the middle, is because even though, it is about David and Natalie in this relationship, I think it's more just about David and just what happens to David. I think Natalie kind of becomes like a sub thought to it. And so that's kind of why for me it's in the middle, even though it's probably the thing you kind of like latch yourself onto. I mean, it's definitely him dancing to the Pointer Sister song. I mean, there's those moments that you remember. And so that's kind of why I had it in the middle, because I think it's definitely like kind of going all in with David, and I don't think Natalie gets her due, really.
Right. And you could even see, I mean, some of the genetic heritage from Notting Hill, so here's a famous, powerful person falling in love with a non-famous, powerful person. And it just happens that Hugh Grant's the opposite role. And it's not, I think you're right. I didn't think about that. It's not really about Natalie. It's about David.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, at number 4, kind of was a little surprised to find myself putting it on here, but I have Billy Mack, and played by Bill Nye, and the relationship between his manager Joe, because kind of going back to what we talked about, even though it's not necessarily this romantic love, I think the just admiration, or finally being able to see what's kind of been in front of you the whole time, and as he's getting older, and I think it's probably fair to say we're not quite at Billy Mack's age that he is in this movie, but I think I can appreciate that storyline a little bit more, as far as like paying more attention to the people that are close to you versus like trying to appeal to the masses, if that makes sense.
And I agree, and it's I like how they did it without making it sappy. It's still a kind of a crass storyline. He's still kind of a jerk. But at the end, I have it written down because one of my favorite lines. He says, "Come, let's get pissed and watch porn."
And I think, I mean, there's lots of funny moments in this movie, but I think consistently the scenes are funny that he's in, that Billy Mack's in. Like every time, it's like every scene, like he delivers the lines perfectly, and it's kind of it works out pretty nicely. I mean, I guess technically we start with Hugh Grant's voiceover, but really Billy Mack's this song is kind of is the background to everybody else's like story, like on purpose.
Absolutely.
And so I do think it's actually kind of genius how it's kind of the layer background as this is going, so as far as like security guards like watching a music video and not doing their job, I don't know that would happen necessarily, but I definitely see what he was going for.
And you're right, and that song is the motif throughout the entire soundtrack, or the score. They take that song and they weave it through a lot of the score, and it just sets it up well.
So number 3, I had Jamie and Aurelia. So Colin Firth and Lucia Muniz, I want to say. Anyway, I would say I can also probably actually, I'm probably more connected to this one than like if somebody didn't like the storyline, I could totally see it. But I just, I don't know. I like the romanticism of two people who aren't actually able to speak each other's languages. And I think how they play with that translation, between each other, or, how they get lost in translation is just cute. I like the whole scene where his papers go flying into the pond, and how they play with that. And then definitely the end when he goes and finds her and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's just, I guess that storyline plays more to the sappy side of me.
Yeah, I love it. For me, I would put that below David and Natalie.
Yeah,
but still in the top. And another favorite line is when his nieces are like, "I hate Uncle Jamie," and For some reason, that line has always stuck with me.
Yeah, yeah. Another little tidbit. Apparently, Colin Firth has a brother named Jamie, and he pushed to have that character's name just for that scene for when they say "I hate Jamie" because he found it kind of amusing that they were saying that about his brother. So anyway, as you who has an older brother, I think you could actually see that playing out.
I totally get that.
Yeah. So number two, this new to number one, I could probably like switch a little bit, but it's I don't know. You can't even really call it a love triangle, but between Harry, Karen, and Mia, with Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson, and I'm gonna totally massacre Mia's name, Heike McCats. I don't know. Anyway,
Mia.
Yeah. So I think because, well, really, almost why I put this at number one is just because Emma Thompson's the queen. Like she's amazing in this movie. So anyway, I want to hear what you think about it before I talk more about it.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has to be one of the top 2 or 3. And yet it's not a sappy romance.
Right.
It is emotional. It plunges the depths of, when she puts on that CD, and I'm going blank on the artist.
Oh yeah.
But why am I going blank on her
Joni
name?
Mitchell. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you, Joni Mitchell. When she puts that on, and she talks about like Joni Mitchell taught your cold English wife how to feel. That's a great line. And when she steps out of the room after opening the gift to melt down, but then she holds it together and goes back out. And so, it just plunges into the depths. In the epilogue, they're still together, but things are rocky still.
Yeah.
So I think it was beautiful acting.
Yeah. I would say probably would have to be maybe more of the realistic kind of storyline of them all. But that scene where Emma Thompson goes into the room to just cry and just I just admired how long they are just willing to stick with that scene. A lot of movies wouldn't do that. They'd probably actually go more towards her like throwing stuff or kind of going for the showy thing, when in fact the more showy thing is her just really sitting in those emotions. And it's truly heartbreaking. But also the way and I don't know, I've probably seen it with different eyes now. I always admire Whitney and other mothers who, despite going through very emotional stuff, no, I'm saying that we have not been in this situation before, so I'm not saying that. I'm saying like just, whether it be a death in the family or, I think maybe these things where I could get more tied into like my personal feelings and like, but the way that Emma Thompson's character, like still her kids after the, performance, oh my gosh, you were so great. Just the ability to still be a mother and to still be, be the role model for them or what. I think those scenes too kind of hit me more like, yes, I just think Karen is like a real life character in this movie.
Absolutely. She absolutely. And you're right. She's the queen. Emma Thompson is the queen. She is a perfect actress. And I love how they paired it with the Joni Mitchell song, because that song is all about seeing the highs and the lows of love. And so it's like they took that song and made a storyline out of it. And I love it.
Yeah. So even as I just was talking about that, I don't know if this one should be number one, but the last one is Daniel and Sam. So Daniel, played by Liam Neeson, who's the stepdad to Sam, Thomas Brody Sangster is his name. And speaking of British things, did you watch The Queen's Gambit?
I did not.
Oh, you would.
Emma did, but I did not.
Yeah, you would like that. Anyway, he pops up in that TV show. But anyway, all that said, I think I put this at number one. Maybe not so much like kind of. It's pretty sappy. I think also I get a little bugged at the end of how quick Daniel is able to move on to his recent wife who has passed away. But it's the thing I remember, and I do think the payoff at the end is so good with them. And everything like from the concert to like going to the airport, and Thomas Brody Sangster does just a great job, I think, as a young actor in this role. And I don't know, it's kind of that in between of emotional, over the top, funny. It's kind of almost like that sweet spot, so that's why I had it at number one. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I think I'd put it lower,
Yeah.
but not bottom for sure. I think it would be
I just like
4 or 3, somewhere around there, like upper middle.
The way it comes through for this movie. Like if you put any of the other stories as the like really main catalyst of like this is what we're ending on, even though the other characters are kind of interwoven between there. I just don't think it would the movie would work as well. Like I think it was a good choice of going with this, as far-fetched as it is him is like, can you imagine telling Henry to like, hey, go watch the security guards are looking?
Yeah.
And just see him going, what you just said the cops after my child. But yeah,
right.
But
they did have to have a chase scene for it to be a rom-com. And so they chose the kid,
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. And they had that homage to like The Graduate where it was really brief, but he like bangs on the glass and yells. And so it was a great way to like wrap it up. And it connected Bill Nye's character to the rest, because Bill Nye was disconnected from everybody other than just being the rock star.
Yeah.
But his music allowed him, the little kid, to do his thing,
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm at those. So I would love to hear if people disagree or agree. I'd love to hear feedback on that.
Movie musings.
Have you ever had a grand greeting at an airport?
I don't think I have. And part of that is like, we're sort of the post 9/11 generation.
Yeah, it's a different time.
I'm either flying with my family or I'm flying by myself, and my family's not there to greet me because they're at home, having baths and eating dinner.
Yeah. I think the airport has done a really great job of just completely cutting this off. Just all the stress to like, how long can I park in this spot? Like, it's like if somebody's getting off the gate and you're picking them up, you're like, hey, come on, we got to get in the car, so it might be a brief hugs and that, but I couldn't help but think about this movie just kind of brought to light. It was not arrival necessarily, but it was my departure. But when Whitney was pregnant with Hallie, so Hallie was born in September. So this was July. So Whitney was pretty far along. And my first international trip was to Vietnam. And she, the night before, like we kind of knew what my itinerary was, but it was like for the first time sitting down and taking a look at it. And she realized like how long I would be in the air. And so she roughly says a lot of it was like hormones or whatever. It just like started like freaking out about how long, not so much how long I was going to be gone, but like how far away or whatever like that. So when she drops me off at the airport, I'm meeting up with my boss and she just loses it. Whitney, she's not very much like a big crier. And like is completely, and my boss Scott was looking like, is he okay? And I don't know what happened, but I was just kind of like, let's just go, and she said like as soon as we went through the gate, she was completely fine. It was like finally it was off. She was like, okay. But anyway, I just can't help but think of that moment when I saw this movie, especially at the beginning, the montage of everybody.
I love it.
Yeah. So what was there ever a Christmas gift? It could be good or bad. So in this movie, we talked a little bit about Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson's characters, and she gets a Joni Mitchell CD instead of the fine piece of jewelry. But in a good way or a bad way, is there ever a Christmas gift that really caught you off guard?
Yeah, there is. This connects to Jim Henson and my love for the Muppets.
Okay.
So when I was really little, I would say like 3, 4, maybe 5, on my grandmother's Christmas tree, there was a Miss Piggy ornament of her as an angel. Apparently, I don't know, early 80s, there was a line of Hallmark ornaments of the Muppets, and they all had a different nativity. So Miss Piggy was the angel. And I would take that off the tree and play with it. And it came with a smell, like a baby powder smell, and like memories and smells are connected.
Yeah.
And I played with it so much, I broke the wings off, broke the halo off. So in the end, it was just Miss Piggy. And I think, probably my grandmother. Thinking back out as an adult, I'm like, oh, kids breaking ornaments. I hate that. Okay. So I had that. And then I think I broke it. It was gone. When I wasn't like a young kid anymore, because I remember part of it was an awkward feeling. So I might have been 12, early teenage. For Christmas, I opened up a present from my grandmother, and it was a mint condition in the Hallmark box Miss Piggy ornament. And I open it up and I smell it, and it was the same smell.
Yeah.
And this is pre-internet.
Yeah.
And so my grandmother had called Hallmark and found a dealer, like, who knew a collector, and she got it shipped.
Wow, that's crazy.
And so, I mean, I have a huge love for the Muppets. But the care and just intentionality that went into that gift, like, she remembered that I love that. Somehow she found it in the nation. I don't even know how. And I still have it. It's still in the box. It is not on my Christmas tree.
I was about to say, she was hoping one day you would have kids and they would stress you out.
Destroy
Probably
it.
like
No, I still have it. Yeah.
So it's
But that was one of those gifts that threw me off guard, I did feel a little awkward because, like, here I'm like a 12-year-old boy with this powder smelling Miss Piggy angel.
Yeah.
But it meant a lot.
Yeah, that's a great one. So she loved your grandmother. So this movie might be it, but the last question I have for you is, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
So there's a theme. Muppets Christmas Carol. Absolutely, Love Actually ranks up at the top, but it's not the top.
Mm-hmm.
Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Love Actually would be like number 2 or 3. I like the first part of Elf. Towards the end, I get a little bored.
Yeah.
So maybe Love Actually is number 2. But yeah, Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
I try to read Charles Dickens' original Christmas Carol every Christmas just because it's like, it's brilliant. And the Muppet version is the closest in terms of the literature. Like, they actually use the language of the short story. And so, yeah, I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Very nice.
What's yours?
Favorite Christmas? I have a lot. Kind of just a go-to. It's just definitely one of those. They're on, could be in the background, whatever. I just love National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It almost gets, it almost gets better as you grow older.
100%. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that. That would be my number 2.
Yeah,
that would be above Love Actually. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Lately, I still wouldn't put it as like the top Christmas movie, but it's kind of become a tradition of ours, just me and Whitney, of on Christmas Eve, kind of just after getting everything wrapped up, and I'm sure you understand just the busyness of the holiday season, and it's all coming to that point. And we have thrown on Bad Moms Christmas, and we have just thoroughly enjoyed it. So,
I've never seen that. I'll have to check that out.
well, it definitely earns its rating, but it plays on that theme, especially I think with interactions with like parents when it comes to holiday time and stuff like that. I mean, did you see the first Bad Moms?
No.
Okay, so I don't know. Like I said, it definitely is it's a R-rated like movie. So I don't know how Emma is with that, but I can see Emma laughing because it hits some very funny moments. But I mean, it's a good like release like movie, and we've had it like on kind of still doing last minute wrapping and that sort of stuff, and it's just kind of Whitney won't ever watch It's a Wonderful Life with me, so that's what I have to go to. So yeah,
they're really similar movies. Bad Moms Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life.
Hey.
So similar.
So similar. Jimmy Stewart would be flipping in his grave.
Rom-Com Rankings.
Quickly jumping back into this movie, and because we really kind of dissected the meat of this, we'll quickly kind of go through the categories because unless you have an argument. So the first category is the romantic chemistry between the leads. For this one, I just put like not available. There's just like too much going on in this. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
Number
agree.
2, I have the best friends aspect. Same thing. Just too many. There's just too many things going on.
I know, and that was and I think you said it earlier. That was the innovative part of the movie, is that the way they're all intertwined. The stereotypical best friend could be a character in another storyline. Because they're all interwoven. But there wasn't like the best friend character. Yeah.
So you talked about it a little bit, but the third category is the soundtrack. So is this something like you watch the movie a lot, but is it like something you have saved on your Spotify playlist, or is one that you're familiar with?
So I have a couple of the songs in my Ferguson Christmas playlist.
Okay.
So that I've curated over the years. So I definitely give the soundtrack and the score 5. Is it stars? 5 hearts?
Hearts. Yeah.
5 hearts. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So I listened to, definitely watching the movie, and I would say there's probably a lot of songs that are in the movie that aren't on the official soundtrack. I think there's like a Maroon 5 song in there and some other ones or whatever like that. I gave it a solid 4. Listening to the soundtrack, I will say that there's some songs I just wouldn't normally listen to, but the songs that are familiar, I mean, there's Kelly Clarkson on here, Norah Jones, Wycliffe John, the Calling Wherever You Will Go is always a song I liked. I think that Pointer Sisters song Jump for My Love works really well in this movie. God Only Knows by the Bitch Boys, which is probably not a song you would ever associate with Christmas, but it plays really well with this movie. I gave it ultimately 4 hearts. Oh, also the score. You're right. The score is great, and it is it's really kind of genius how they melded it into Billy Mack's song Christmas All Around, which is his ultimate cheesy song, but then bringing into this like beautiful orchestra inspired.
Yeah, it becomes a leitmotif throughout the whole movie. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so even though there's a couple of songs, like I said, I would probably definitely skip if they popped up. Even with those songs, because even the Joni Mitchell song on here is like, I mean, it is a downer, which definitely plays into the storyline. But I think these songs, like when you hear them, they are very it's a very inspired soundtrack. They just we were talking about my conversation with Kyle on the Wedding Planner, and we kind of made fun of that soundtrack because it definitely just felt like, okay, what can we pull out of the library to insert? It's like insert song here. And this one, actually, I feel like Richard Curtis had a purpose for the songs being where they are. So that's why I gave it 4 hearts. So pretty sure to me, it's not Love Actually is probably not one I would have thought of ever as having a great soundtrack, but it's probably definitely one of one of those that's really up there. So for the fourth category, I have the chase scene declaration of love. I thought this one could actually play into this movie. What do you give it?
Yeah, so I give it a 4.
Okay.
Because I think you've got the boy. What's his name? Is it Sam?
Yeah.
Okay, Sam's chasing, but then there's also, with my favorite storyline with Hugh Grant, he goes to the dodgy end of those terrace houses, and he goes knocking on every door, and every interaction is hilarious.
Yes.
And he's chasing her, and I love that when he opens it, these narrow little row houses in Natalie's house, there's like 12 family members ready to walk out, and he's trying to make his profession of love. And, and the mom's like, we're pretty late. So it's not romantic, but for me, it's just, I love it.
Yeah, I actually gave it a 5. I talked a little bit about the airport thing, but also, I think Jamie's, journey to the village.
Yes, I forgot about that one. Yes.
And I think how they intercut everything, and yes, totally cliche, chase scene, definitely airport is heavily involved in this, but I almost kind of feel like this is where everybody thinks of airport scenes. Like, this could maybe be the, I like for the second category, best friends category, I made that the inaugural Judy Greer category. I think the chasing, this could be the inaugural Love Actually, category. I just think even as cheesy as some of the things are, actually how it's intercut and how it's paced, I think is brilliant. And it's really funny. So I remembered the scene you were talking about, David going to all the houses, but like I completely forgot about the moment where that little kid asked him to sing a carol, and then his bodyguard has a deep baritone voice. So funny. That was a genuine like a surprise. I just didn't remember that for whatever reason, and both me and Whitney really laughed a lot at that scene. We thought that was pretty funny. But okay, so I think I can guess what you'd give this, but the last category is the rewatchability. What do you give it?
Yeah, a 5.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I gave it 4.5 because, like I said, there's just the Colin going to America. There's just some things in there I just can't go that full on. Like, but as far as like throwing it on, like I said, with this movie, I really kind of had to take everything that I just know about this movie and that's been made fun of and kind of put it on the back shelf. And even for its low moments, I think the high moments really like make this like accelerated. So this movie is number 24 on this list, the 50 best rom-coms list. And I'm kind of,
what number was it?
It's number 24.
24,
and
okay.
I don't know, just right off the surface, I feel like maybe like The Holiday is above it, and I'd probably put this like in front of The Holiday, so. And while you're sleeping, I'd probably put it in front of While You're Sleeping, just kind of thinking back, but that's just me. So
yeah, The Holiday is another one of our British movies that we watched together in our house. And as I was watching, so The Holiday was produced by Nancy Meyers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So as I was watching it this time, I kept thinking like, this is like a British Nancy Meyers-esque movie in the way that like London looks clean and glamorous and modern and I'm like, and even the dodgy end still looked beautiful,
Yeah.
And Nancy Meyers, I love her as a director. It's always like this just clean aesthetic, and I feel like they replicated or they had that in Love Actually, and maybe that's another thing that draws me to the movie.
Yeah,
it's not a dingy London, which there are parts of London that are dingy.
Yeah, no, I've never been, but I would definitely. We're the first to admit international travel doesn't completely appeal to us very much, but when I've asked Whitney, is like if you could go one place like overseas, she says London. So
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe
Yeah, we're kind of the opposite. We try to get as many passport stamps as possible, and
yeah.
like when Jamie Colin Firth goes to Provence, like, yeah, it's just beautiful.
Maybe we could stow away in your luggage sometime when you go to London to visit family.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
It might be a little bit over that weight limit on the scale, but
Recommendations.
so recommendations, anything that you're watching or listening to or reading that you've been telling people about?
Yeah. So I've got two things. So I'm in the middle of the new season of The Crown.
Oh, okay.
No surprise.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite shows. And so they're doing the Diana death saga right now. And then I just got finished reading Quality Land, the book.
Okay.
So on my commute, I do audiobooks. I've learned to not say books on tape because that dates me. But audiobooks. So I listened to Quality Land,
Okay.
which is a book by a German author. And they translated it to English. But the premise is it's kind of like maybe 10, 15 years in the future. What would happen if Amazon, Google, and Meta took over like a country, and the AI is so good that like the Amazon style company can perfectly predict what you're going to buy. So it just sort of ships packages to you before you buy them because it knows you're going to buy them anyway. And the premise is this guy gets a package, and it has something crass in it that he doesn't want. So it's a pink dolphin vibrator, and so he goes to return it, and they're like, "Yeah, of course, we will return any unwanted items." And he's like, "Great, I want to return this." And like, "Nope, you can't return it. It's not unwanted. You want it because we predicted you wanted it." So that's the premise. And so from then it goes on. In this future world, there's like smart AI, there's robots, all the cars are driving, but it's funny, and it's in the sort of the vein of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That sort of absurdist humor that's just a little bit too broad, a little bit too on the nose. But on my commute, I thought it was a really funny read that really made me think about artificial intelligence as well, you know?
Yeah.
So those are my two recommendations: Quality Land and The Crown.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that until you said what was in the package, I was like, this plot sounds a little too realistic for my taste. So it just seems a little bit too much true to life at this moment. But so sticking with the British theme, do you also have Apple TV Plus?
I don't anymore. So we subscribe enough to get Ted Lasso.
Okay.
And then we cancel it.
Okay. Well, there's a small little show on there called Still Up that came out this year, and I would say it's not the most amazing show ever. I was just looking. IMDb has a 6.6 out of 10, which is probably a good spot for it. But it's a short little show, 6 episodes. The British do that so well. But it's basically about these two quote unquote friends who are insomniacs, and they talk to each other in the middle of the night to kind of keep each other company. But it's really witty and banter, and it's definitely, I mean, this is not spoiling anything. It's one of those like they, of course, they really like each other, but they both won't admit it, but with the premise of, and he's like afraid to go out of his house. So he's always stuck there. And actually they did pretty well with that premise, especially dealing with like they're like constantly on FaceTime with each other and that sort of thing. But it's a really cute show. And I would say if you like Love Actually, you would probably really like this a lot. So it's kind of one of those like realistic / like this would probably never happen. But anyway, it's a really cute show. But Hallie really liked watching it with us. And she just said she really liked listening to people with British accents, so she's been digging it.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I know you told me about this a while back, but I've done a trial subscription to Paramount Plus, but we just started Ghost, the UK version. And so we've been enjoying. We're just 2 episodes into that, but we've been enjoying that as well. So
That's a great show. And I'd never even tried to watch the American version because the British version was just, it was funny. It was good. It was, that's a great show.
yeah, we never watched the American version either, but I just thought we'd go with that one because Hallie enjoyed Still Up so much. I was like, I think you'll get the humor, So, well, awesome. Well, thanks for doing this. So
this was awesome.
Yeah, I feel even though we have no plans as of yet to see you during this holiday season, I feel like this is our way to way to connect. So
absolutely.
Whitney, after that conversation, I had Daniel and Sam, the father and the son, as the number 1. And Todd had David and Natalie, the Hugh Grant storyline, as his number 1. So, you okay with those picks?
Yeah. I never, thought of the father and son. I like that one. Now that you said it.
Yeah.
I was just sticking to romantic comedies or romantic ones.
Yeah, well, Sam was, he had the crush on the girl, and chased her in the airport and all that.
Yeah. Well, he had the crush on the girl, but I thought well, when you just said it, the father and son relationship, I didn't really think about that. That's what you meant, right?
Well, I just meant that storyline. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the story that plays out there. Yeah. Well, we would love to hear from our audience. What's your favorite Love Actually storyline, or better yet, which one do you think is the worst? So find us on Instagram and Facebook at Movies Are Life Pod to let us know. Remember, you can always visit moviesaurelife.com for all of our episodes, reviews, and more. If you love the podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it. This really helps us with finding new listeners. It's that time, Whitney. Next week, we will be revealing our top 10 movies of 2023. I'm not going to make you list 10, but you could just say which one's been your favorite from this year.
What is it?
Not right now. You have time to
think. Thank goodness. I thought you were going to make me name one. Oh, I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes. Christmas is all around me.
So make sure you're subscribed as we journey through the best of the silver screen from this past year. Merry Christmas, and I hope everybody's having happy holidays.
Yeah.
That was your tag? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.